Hey y'all, Mike with Cardboard Kingdom. Welcome back to everybody's favorite video of the month, the January 2025 monthly market recap, the first monthly market recap for 2025. Excited to get into it. We do have some changes for today in terms of the cards we're going to be covering and our just agenda and whatnot. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff, and we're going to go over obviously some prices and moves for some of the bigger cards. So we took off the Stitch Carefree Surfer set card. We also took off the D23 2024 Mickey Mouse. And we took off, I feel like, one more card, and we added in the first round of DLC promos. We didn't include Dragonfire into that list because there's just a lot of them, and that card isn't really commanding a premium. But we did include both Cinderella Stout-Hearted as well as Rapunzel Gifted with Healing, specifically the foil variants. As the non-foil variants continue to pick up traction, and they are pacing very well right now, we'll probably begin to cover them. But for right now, those are still flushing out a little bit. There's so many of those. And obviously with this list, I'm really trying to track the top and a couple set cards here and there. And so those were the changes that we made for this particular video. So reminder, we're going to talk about our trophy/grail cards. We're going to talk about sealed products. Then we're going to talk about set cards specifically. Caveat that I need to continue to throw in there is that I own the majority of the cards that I'm going to talk about today. I'll always tell you if I own it or if I don't. So just keep in mind that this is just my thoughts and opinions, my bias, and nothing more than that, right? So just keep that in mind as we progress through the video. For January, the Serialized Mickey Mouse, I could not find a single sale, whether that was raw, whether that was graded. Now, I will say I only checked eBay, and typically I'm running these through 130 point, and I did not do that. But on eBay, I could not find a single raw or graded sale for the entire month of January, which even though it was only eBay, that is rare because there were sales in the previous months. At least one sale, right? So no sales for Mickey. He continues to be obviously probably the most valuable card in Lorcana right now, until the Worlds 1-of-1 comes out. Also a sneaky sleeper, and I've talked about this before in other videos, the foil Baymax from the EU and NA championships. If that card is given out at Worlds and then nowhere else, so let's say the next round of DLC events, if there is no foil Baymax there, that card is going to be like sneakily like a lot more rare than this card. So my guess, knowing Ravensburger and how they typically do these promos, that Baymax will continue to roll out. But at the end of the day, we need to keep our eyes on that one because that one could quietly be one of the most valuable cards. It already is one of the most valuable cards, I would say, kind of like top 10-ish, but it would be absolutely insane if it's not released anymore, apart from maybe included at Worlds and then discontinued after that. So continue to monitor our foil Baymax from the championships. But apart from that, I definitely still have Mickey as a sale. I've mentioned this many times. I think this card is going to end in the foreseeable future in the next 6 to 12 months, somewhere between like a $5,000 to $10,000 card. In my opinion, it is serialized out of 500. They've continued to award it, whether it's at DLC Australia, at the championship events, the continental events. We'll see what happens in Japan and China at their DLC events, but I would imagine they're probably going to be getting it as well. And so that thing has continued to be given out. Obviously, it's serialized out of 500. My guess is that 500 will be awarded. And when we get to that point of the 500 being awarded, that card is not going to command the 15 to 20,000 price tag that it has now. So that's why I have it listed as a sell. Obviously, long term, I love the collectability of the card. I will be a purchaser of the card at some point. I just don't think it's got a fair market value right now. So that's why I have it listed as a sell. Moving over to the Elsa Snow Queen D23 2022 promo. Snow Queen, Elsa, first edition, go card. This is a card that I own. The Mickey Mouse I do not own. I mentioned that, but this card for raw, we saw a $3,000 raw purchase for the month of January. For graded, we saw the PSA 10 count go up by 1. Grade gem mint rate stayed the same, 64% month over month. The PSA 10 high sale was set, our low sale was 7,300 for this month, which was a little bit of a dip, and the PSA 10 high sale was 8,200 for the month, which honestly, there was a $15,000 sale in December. I mentioned it in the December monthly market recap. I don't know how much of that sale was true. There were other sales that were going around like 8 to 10,000. Then there was one $15,000 sale. I included it just to include it, but to be honest, there wasn't. The takeaway from January for this card was the prices relatively stayed the same, right? It's been selling between 7,000 to 8,500 pretty consistently. Now, what was different about kind of late December into January is we saw a lot of these cards go to auction, and they were constantly bid around anywhere between kind of 70. The low was 7,300 up to 8,200. The current low list, if you wanted to go get a PSA 10 copy right now, is 8,100. And why that is important and why I bring that up is because these cards are really starting to establish a new baseline in terms of what the floor is for these cards. You're seeing a lot of them go to auction and be cycled into new hands. The people who bought the card at 8,000 aren't going to be looking to sell it at 9,000, right? They're going to be holding on to it for a little bit longer of a time horizon. And so this is one that obviously there's not that many copies out there, 389 in total circulation. There was probably like close to 10 sales, I would say, just in January alone, which is a pretty decent chunk of the population when you think about it. And so I remain steadfast that I feel like this card is going to be the grail in the long term, right? First edition, first cards ever awarded, that kind of older rare mints or better that we talk about. I feel like this is going to be the foundation of that, even more so than the serialized Golden Mickey. Now, the difference between those two cards is there are 900 of these in circulation. Now, right now, there's only 389 Gem Mint 10s. That number might end closer based on the current Gem Mint rate, somewhere around like 600 when it's all said and done. Is that 600 number going to outweigh there's only 500 Mickeys, and obviously not all of them are going to get a Gem Mint 10, right? So there's going to be more of this, but it's Elsa versus Mickey, first edition versus kind of first like major trophy card. Like there's a lot to kind of parse there, but this is definitely one of the best bets in all of Lorcana. With that being said, I have it listed as a hold because it has gone up dramatically in price just over the last few months. I haven't been tracking this as long as the others, but just to give you some sort of perspective, PSA 10 copies of this card were going for 5,000 to 6,000 like 3 to 4 months ago. So kind of last quarter, they were going for almost like 30 to 40% less in some auctions. And so it's gone up quite a bit here as of late. So I have it listed as a hold. I would never fault anyone for buying this card. I think once again, we have seen this floor start to establish. And so I would feel comfortable buying it at this price, but it's just such a high price that, it's rough. I'm definitely not a seller of this card. I'm not selling it at 9,000 by any means. This was one of the cards that I made an absolute priority to get my hands on before it got out of reach. So mine is a BGS 9.5. It's got pristine. It's got 10 corners, 10 edges, 9.5 surface, 9.5 centering. The reason why I bought that copy in particular is because if I get a 0.5 upgrade on any of the two subgrades that are 9.5, it would then be a pristine 10, which there's only two other copies of in the world, which would then give it there's a lot of people who collect BGS. They would give it a more provenance on that front as well. At the end of the day, I am going to try and do what's called a GCR or a graded card review on that one time here at Collecticon this summer to try and see if, because Beckett goes to those shows and they will do a graded card review. So you can submit it. I think it costs like $25 and they will see if it qualifies for an upgrade. And so I will be doing that once. If I can't get it, then I'll probably cross it to PSA. But PSA also has just insane prices. Like when the market value of a card like this, let's say it's $10,000, like just to like put it into PSA plastic, it's like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Like it doesn't make sense. But nevertheless, that is where we are at with the Elsa. Moving on to the Rapunzel Gifted with Healing foil trophy. So top 8 or top 16 depending on the event. Raw sales, we had a low sale of 2,500 essentially. In January, high sale of 3,000 for a raw copy. Those were on TCG Player. When we look at the graded market, only 59 in existence. So very, very low pop, right? This is a card this is the second rarest trophy card of the first set that was awarded behind the Mickey. So only 59 in existence. Decently hard gem mint rate, 62%. Obviously still above 50%, so maybe not hard is the proper word there, but harder than a lot of the other trophy cards. We have seen the trophy cards in Lorcana have pretty good gem mint rates. Like, for example, the first, 12 or 13 Mickeys that got graded all got, the maximum grade depending on where they were getting graded at, whether it was BGS, BGS, I think like Pristine 10 was the standard. CGC Pristine 10 with the gold label. I think all of the ones that got graded there got that. And then at PSA, they all gotten PSA 10s. Now there have been some that have came in at like 9.5s and things like that. But that card for the most part has been grading very, very well, like like probably above 90% all in gem mint rate. This card not as much, 62%. There was only one sale for a PSA 10 copy for the month of January, and that ended at 4,800. So kind of almost double the price, honestly, on the low side from the floor to get a PSA 10 copy. 62% gem mint rate. I think that's probably a little high. Like I wouldn't pay 4,800 for a gem mint copy. Now I personally do not have this card yet, and same with the Cindy. I do not own that card. I am waiting on these to just see how they shake out. I really want to go through this lull of right now. We don't know when Worlds is going to be. We just finished DLC Melbourne. We have no DLC announcements for the foreseeable future. And I think that a lot of people who won these cards are going to be tested over the next, let's say 6-ish months, depending on when Worlds is. But we're gonna hit a lull here, especially if we don't hear about Worlds in the next couple weeks or next month. Like people are really, really, really gonna start to get cold feet, and I think they're gonna let these cards go. And so I've been building back up my capital position from the purchase of the D23 Elsa, and I've been waiting on the sidelines for these. I feel like they're gonna come down. I could be wrong on that. We might be in a different era of these trading cards where the trophy cards just people understand how rare they are, and especially in Lorcana's context between the demand and the supply of like the set cards and things like that. They're readily available. There's only a few of them have a significant premium on them, and these cards are truly rare, right? Like this Rapunzel. So definitely a card that I want. Definitely a card that I will acquire at some time. I'm just not in a rush to get it, and that might bite me, right? These might continue to go up. There's not that many of them. And so at the end of the day, the supply versus the demand, we're going to have to see what shakes out. I'm personally just sitting on the sideline there. So that's my thoughts. For the Cinderella Stout-Hearted Foil Trophy, we did not have any raw cards on TCG Player for the entire month of January. I will say that the most recent raw sales are around $1,000, give or take. Just under $1,000, I think. When we look at the graded side of things, there's 123 PSA 10, 123 PSA 10 count in existence, a 75% gem mint rate. So once again, think back to the Rapunzel down at 62. This significantly higher, much more in line with what we would expect. 3 of every 4 getting a gem mint grade. Premium here, 1,283 for a PSA 10 on the low side. High side, 1,400 for the month of January. So once again, I think that this is a card that's going to grade very well, and so therefore it's not going to have a significant premium for a PSA 10. I do think the Rapunzel, once again, is significantly higher than it should be in terms of the premium. But this is a card that I would probably just go out and get in PSA 10 when I am ready to buy it. I think that this would be one I would definitely go that route on. So great card, incredibly. These trophy cards, I don't own them yet, but once again, that's not to poo-poo their significance. The art is amazing. The art on those DLC promos it's just awesome. I love the cards. I definitely want to get them, but once again, I'm patient. I don't need to FOMO in. I know I will. I'll get my opportunity. So we're sitting on the sideline. By the way, for my players out there, I love this card in my Steel Song decks. The card is just a tank, literally. So moving over to, obviously, one of the cards that I talked about the most on my channel, the Rockstar Stitch. Low sale for January, 308 for a raw copy. High sale at 339. When you compare those numbers to July, 13% increase on the low, 4% decrease on the ceiling. Obviously, that kind of puts us right around the same prices that we were at in January. Remained pretty flat since then. Down a little bit since December. So holiday season, people are definitely spending a little bit more on this particular card. When we look at the graded side of things, the pop count did go up 12 since we looked at it last. Gem mint rate has stayed where it was, 40%. Very, very hard to grade card. I think we're going to continue to see this trend down into the 30s as it gets more valuable, and as the copies that are going to be sent have been out of plastic longer and longer. Chances for wear, maybe being in decks, not properly secured in a binder, et cetera, et cetera. I think that this is gonna continue to slow down, right? and then this is going to continue to get worse. So PSA 10 low sale, 800 for the month of January. PSA 10 high sale, 850. There wasn't too many sales, to be honest, just a couple PSA 10 sales. I have this card listed as a buy because I think that it makes sense, right? So I am a huge fan of this card. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times. If you've watched any number of my videos, you know where I stand on this card. First trophy card ever awarded in Lorcana. First enchanted card ever awarded in Lorcana. It was a set champs card for the first set champs. There was only a top 4 awarded at that time. It is very hard to grade, and there's a very limited quantity of these out there in terms of when you think about total amount of set cards and things like that. When you compare it against like the Elsa. Obviously, the demand for the Elsa being the chase, it's kind of like the Charizard. Like the demand is there, which is holding it up. But I think whenever you look at underlying principles and fundamentals, this card should be more expensive than the Elsa, in my opinion. Now, obviously, demand and sentiment differs for me there, but I feel like over time, as we continue to grow and more collectors come in, I think we're going to see the Stitch be positioned very well. So I have it listed as a buy. Obviously, a mainstay in my collection. I have multiple PSA 10 copies. Ursula Sea Witch Queen Store Championship. So similar vibe to Stitch here, just the second iteration, the next set champs. Only top 4 were awarded. And right now, prices for January, $87 for a raw copy, $95 for the ceiling for a raw copy. Both down tremendously since July. I keep this number on there because it's kind of irrelevant because month over month the card hasn't changed month. It's within a couple dollars of where it was last month. So the change is negligent, but the percent change since July is significant. And that is because whenever this card first came out, people were paying $400, $500 for a raw copy. This card was never going to be a $400 or $500 card. And so we are seeing a significant pullback there. And I think that's by design. And that's why, when these cards come out, like, for example, the Scar that's out right now people have learned. And so now they're not getting the premium that they previously were. But, like, let those cards shake out a little bit. Let the set champs season end. Let all the winners get their cards. Let them sit on them for a couple weeks and see what's going to happen, right? I still have not even purchased my Ursula Sea Witch Queen because it's gone down more and more over time. And so I'm just not in a rush to get it. Should we start to see some sort of like significant buyout or action on it, I would probably scoop one up just to have one because I do want to have one. I think there's, and when I think about my long-term collection, like definitely we'll have all the set champs cards in a PSA 10. This one in particular, I haven't gotten yet because I just don't feel the need to. Now, something very interesting about this card, it is incredibly hard to grade. 29% gem mint rate as of January, which is down 1% from December, so getting even harder to grade. The overall pop did go up in a PSA 10 count to 212, which is up, roughly 16 month over month. So we are starting to see that pop get up there a little bit. 212, still incredibly rare, incredibly hard to grade. What I love about this card and what I wanted to point out, you can get an absolute steal, in my opinion, on the PSA 10 side of things right now. You're paying almost $100 for a near mint copy raw. A PSA 10 is going for $232, so barely, like 2x, a little bit above 2x on the overall price. But the card's like impossible to grade. And so for me, like I would much rather just go out, bird in hand, get the PSA 10 copy and have it, rather than go out and buy a ton of these and hope to grade them. Obviously, if you buy some through TCG Player and you get them at copyright, great, go for the grade. But at the end of the day, this is one that I would just rather go out and buy. And I think it's a good time to buy the card overall. Once again, I'm kind of in like a buy/hold side of things. I definitely would not be selling the card. That's for sure. I have not bought it yet, but I definitely, it's more of a buy than anything else, in my opinion. Moving over to the sealed side of things, January was a huge month for the sealed side of things. I actually messed this up, obviously. But for a sealed first chapter booster box case, we had the high sale of $1,500, low sale of $1,200. So these should be flipped. That's messing with my numbers here. I apologize, I didn't catch that. But once again, I mentioned this in a video earlier this week. One second. I purchased a case of first chapter for $600 not even 12 months ago. That same box has now, it's up 250% since I bought it. That is obviously very irregular. That is not sustainable. And so I hope that we stay around 1500 for a while. To be honest, it has. I will say it's been a gradual increase. It got up to like 1300. We got a significant restock and reprint that dropped it back down. Cases were readily available around like 800, 900. I bought multiple more cases than my dollar cost. My average is probably like I'm probably in my cases for like 750 to like 800 total across all my cases of first chapter. So they're doing very well. I think it's one of the most, sound investments, if you will, in all of Lorcana. I think that this set is the best design set thus far. I think it has the most iconic IP within it. I think the art is gorgeous. It obviously has the provenance of being the base set of Disney Lorcana. I think that these boxes, they also don't have enchanted locations. They have multiple princesses. They have Stitches, like Tinkerbell. Like the roster in the first set, Maui's, it doesn't stop, right? There's just hitters. Now, I would say you have the Artful Rogue, Mickey, and the Hades, that are probably like the redheaded stepchildren of the set, if you will. I think the Hades card looks good. Artful Rogue is one of my least favorite enchanteds thus far, but by and large, this set absolutely hits. They went to market with a banger of a set. Some of the sets since then, hit and miss. Definitely still some good ones in there, but I think that the first chapter is just as solid as it gets. From a collectability standpoint and a ton of playable cards, etc. Obviously now you can get the Chinese variants, the Japanese variants, and there's a lot going on there. Looking at the individual booster boxes, 320 low sale for January for a single box, high sale for 350 for an individual box, up 30 to 40% all in from July whenever we started monitoring these boxes. I have this listed as a hold, as I'm not a seller here. I always have, once again, and this is going to be consistent for as long as I'm doing this channel. Anytime something's gone up 30, 40% over the last few months, like I have a hard time putting that as a buy, right? Because that just tells me that it's poised for some sort of drawback or retrace. At the end of the day, all the fundamentals are there. And so if you want to go and get it at this price, I would never fault you for that. But at the end of the day, Ravensburger, once again, I always like to mention this anytime I'm talking about sealed, they have never committed that they will 100% not reprint this. They have left that door open. And so by the time I post this video, they could be news of a retracement or news of a reprint, and then that would absolutely destroy everything on this slide. So incredibly risky, incredibly volatile. It's paid off thus far for me in terms of paper gains. Now I'm not selling at this price. But at the end of the day, I just, I like to keep it into perspective. These numbers could change in an instant. So keep that in mind. Moving over to Rise of the Floodborn, definitely a buy in my opinion, one of the best buys in terms of sealed. I think really in Lorcana, the only two sealed sets you want to keep right now are first chapter and then Rise of the Floodborn. Honestly, nothing else is at that point where it needs to be, sealed yet. There's still readily available, mixes of all of the other products. And we're not there yet. The demand has not been there for the other sets. There's no need to keep those sealed at the moment. Now, look, if you want to put a case aside to keep it for down the road, whatever, do you. But I'm just saying in terms of like having any sort of large position of sealed boxes of anything other than the first chapter in Rise of the Floodborn, I just think it's a waste of time. Low sale for January 2025 for Rise of the Floodborn was $549. High sale $579. Wasn't a lot of change month over month there. A little bit up percentage-wise, double-digit gains since July. Rise of the Floodborn sealed booster box and individual box, 133 on the low side, 159 on the high side, starting to trend back up a little bit. Obviously, this was a product that was available for around 100 to 110 for the majority of 2024. Started to dry up. We had a bunch of like Amazon listings and like Best Buy listings, even Disney.com listings when they were doing sales. They came out with individual boxes. So this did see a lot of definitely not a reprint, but like restocks throughout the year, which I think helped keep the price suppressed. And right now, I think it's at a very, 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 very fair price. Once again, it has iconic enchantments in it. Obviously, the Cinderella, one of my favorite artworks in all of Lorcana. It's got multiple princesses. It has Aurora. Aurora's in set one. It has Snow White, and it has Belle. No, not Belle. Who am I thinking of? Growing Girl. Alice. Sorry, I'm thinking like their like titles before I can think of their card name. Has Alice, Snow White, and Cinderella. Has other iconic artworks in it. No enchanted locations. And for what it's worth, in my opinion, this is the least printed set in all of Lorcana because set one had so much hype it had to be reprinted. So it got like at least double the initial suggested allocation. It was essentially doubled, if not, if they didn't even over double it, which I think they probably did. Um, Set two then came out, Rise of the Floodborn, which was kind of getting overshadowed by set one. And then when they were releasing set three Into the Inklings, they had seen the hype from set one and they ramped up the printers for Into the Inklings. You can find Into the Inklings everywhere. They are still coming out with products with Into the Inklings. They've done all sorts of Amazon fulfillment. Into the Inklings was printed into oblivion. And so that's like, I have a sealed case of Into the Inklings that I've had for months. One of the worst plays I've made thus far. Like, that was just, I put that capital and pretty much lit it on fire. I still have it. It's not going anywhere. It is what it is. I don't have any heartburn about it. But it's just that set was printed so much. And so I think that they, between having to reprint the first chapter and then seeing that by the time we got to set 3, 4, 5, 6, the amount of demand they had for the game, they overestimated how iconic the first chapter was. Set 2 never got a reprint. Set 2 was never included in a lot of those bundles. Set 2 is pretty much dried up for the most part and is now only available at MSRP, when for the last year it was available for, I would say 20 or 30% below MSRP. So now we're kind of at that point. It's stabilized. The boxes, they have a decent sell-through rate. If you look on TCG Player, they definitely do get some volume. I think this is a set, oddly enough, that is like widely available in the UK. I think my European friends have told me that it's like you can get it for like $100 a box over there still. But this is definitely what I would have it listed as a buy. I think it's very sound right now. Quickly go through the D23 collector's box to wrap up our sealed side of things. Up 34% on the low side at $260 for a box since August. Up 25% to $297 on the ceiling high side for January 2025. This box I have as a hold. I think that this is going to be a great collector's box for the future. But these boxes where there's no booster packs, it's just the set of 6 cards and we know what it's going to be. I think it is going to continue to trend up. But it's just, I have it listed as a whole because I could see it coming down a little bit. There were people who had carts of these that were coming out of the various different Disney stores that they went to. Like, I'm talking people had 50 to 100. Now, a lot of those have sold. There was a ton of buy pressure on these when they first came out. You could get them for like 150, 160. Disney was selling them for 99, I think. And so they printed the flippers pretty much. They went, got them, and made a 2X immediately, and it's continued to go up from there. So if you don't have them, I would say it's probably worth going out and getting them because the cards are gorgeous. The artwork inside, chef's kiss, they did amazing. Now, is it worth it to go out and get it at 260 to 300? It's only been out for 4, 5, 6 months now. I don't know, right? You're gonna have to make that call, but it definitely is it's new, but it's gone up a lot. So do with that information what you will. Next up, Elsa, Spirit of Winter, the chase of all of Lorcana. The Charizard, as I like to compare it, the Charizard of Lorcana. Low sale for January 2025, $750. High sale for a raw copy, $959. Both up, roughly single digits from their prices in July. Not much movement there. Pretty par for the course month over month. We did see the high side come up a little bit, but by and large, prices are right where they were. PSA data for the Elsa, 2,107 PSA 10 copies. That's up, roughly 40 overall PSA 10 cards in existence, up to 2,100. The most graded card in all of Lorcana. The highest pop by far of any card in Lorcana, 2,107. 68% gem mint rate, so it is going to get a gem mint grade the majority of the time. Wide range in PSA 10 prices here. 1,376 for a PSA 10 low sale in January, 2,145 for a PSA 10 high sale. So definitely you're typically not going to see, like, you look at the variants over in December, like $100 separated them there. Here we have this drastic margin. That can happen whenever you get to low listings on the market. People start to overreact. They're willing to pay the $2,100 FOMO price, and then people come back down to the market, and it goes down from there. I would say right now the going rate for a enchanted PSA 10 Elsa is around $1,500. give or take. There definitely are some auctions that are ending above that. But once again, a card that is changing hands regularly. It definitely has a set floor. It's the chase of all of the set cards, and overall, I think it's a buy. It's a great spot to be in terms of Lorcana. I mean, you can't that art. I apologize. Honestly, both these arts, the Elsa and the Cinderella, like they just killed it. They look tremendous, and so can't go wrong with the Elsa. If you're new to Lorcana and you don't have one yet, and you're still here listening to me rant about numbers 30 minutes into this thing, I think that this card is set up for success, and I think it's at a great price, fair price right now. We were seeing this card go for over 1,500 for a raw copy when it got to its high, and then PSA 10 was well over 2,000. So very fair prices right now, considering everything. And once again, and something that I haven't been talking about as much because I was talking about it a lot months ago, but it was just taking a long time to come to fruition. So I figured it would be best to probably lay off of it a little bit. But like as these first chapter boxes get higher and higher, right? We're at 350 for an individual box. We're at 1,500 for a case. These just are not going to be ripped that much, right? And so people going out and looking for these Elsas, less and less are going to be on the market in terms of coming from opening packs. And so the frequency of listings is going to go down by nature of that. And so if the demand stays the same or even downticks a little bit, but the supply downticks a lot, right, that can create some irregularities in the market there. And I think that that's kind of what we're setting up for a lot of these first chapter enchanteds. Last but not least, the Cinderella, low sale for a raw copy, $275 in January. High sale for a raw copy, $374, up 22% since July. Both high and low, up double digits there, which is nice. Once again, one of my favorite cards in all of Lorcana, especially for a set card. This card is incredibly playable. It's one of the most popular IPs of all time. The artwork is fantastic. And last but not least, very, very hard to grade. 44% gem mint rate. There's only 756 of these in existence, which is up 24 roughly, or no, that's 17 since December, so still not going up very fast. PSA 10 low sale at 342, PSA 10 high sale 650. That's another common trend that I probably should have mentioned before now. If you can catch some of these cards that are hard to grade on a good auction, man, you can get a real deal. I mean, we're looking at people were selling raw copies for $374. Someone got a PSA 10 for $342 on a card that's incredibly hard to grade. And so that's you keep your eyes out on these auctions, you're going to be set up for success. So that's kind of what worth pointing out there, and ultimately why I love this card so much. I didn't delete this data, but I didn't delete the slide, but I will not be talking about the Stitch Carefree Surfer today. So a couple things that I wanted to end on today, and kind of like some moves that I'm making, plays that I'm making, etc. Especially if you've made it, listen to me rant for 33 minutes here. So I have had an insane amount of luck here over with the promos in. Sorry, give me 1 second. I just do something for work. I've had a tremendous amount of luck with promos in Pokemon. So I talked about this on the channel a lot, not so much recently, but I'm a huge fan of having positions in my collection of things that did not come out of booster boxes. So whatever that may be, whether that's an organized play promo on the Lorcana side, or whether that's an ETB promo on the Pokemon side. I have constantly, that's been a mainstay of my collection and my strategy. And so, times like now where Pokemon's just in this major upcycle, I have a lot of promos that I've been sitting on that I'm now selling just in stacks and stacks at a time and making a ton of profit. And so that's what I wanted to kind of put you guys on right now. Now, this is not to say that it's going to happen for Lorcana, but I'm positioning myself just in case it does. So this is one of my biggest ones here as of late. The Mimikyu ETB promo from Paldean Fates. I have just stacks of these in tins, like 10 quantities. And I've got just team bags full of them that I bought them for 40 cents a piece was my average entry, and I'm selling them for $4 now. And I bought them like 6 months ago, roughly. So between that and then these UPC 151 promos, the Mew, and then the Mewtwo. These were selling for like $2 to $3 a piece. This pink one now is over $30. I've sold multiple for $35. A PSA 10 copy of this card is selling for $700. The Mewtwo is now a $14 card. It was selling for $2. And so basically, I collect promos, right? I've shown you guys my promo collection before, whether that is the D100 promos, right? The Elsa is now under $10. That card was getting close to $30 raw a while ago. So that card's very cheap. So any like D100 promos or organized play promos, it doesn't have to be the Mickey Mouse, the Rapunzel, the Cinderella, the Let It Go, etc. I forgot to include Let It Go into my slide today. I ran the numbers for it. I apologize on that, but I am going out and I'm still acquiring a lot of promos. Anytime that I can get a solid collection of a card that did not come out of a booster pack, has increased rarity, and should we see any sort of Black Swan event or upcycle on the collectability of Lorcana, I think, what are people going to want to come in and have FOMO on that they didn't get when it was cheap? And I think those promos make a ton of sense. So I've talked about it a ton. I just have stacks and bricks of these promos. These are the Cinderella night and training cards. These cards are still readily available for 50, 60 cents. When I first started buying them, they were available for 13 cents. People had their entire organized play kit listed at 13 cents a pop with like $1.29 shipping on the order. So, I mean, I was on like that, literally, like some of my orders, I was getting them for like 14, 15 cents shipped to my door, which signed me up for that every day and twice on Sunday, continuing to run that on all of the organized play promos. And look, guys, there's a chance that it's more likely than not that this never turns into Pokemon, and that Lorcana never gets the popularity or the collectability that Pokemon has. In all likelihood, that's not going to happen. But that's not to say that it can't increase in collectability, and that should we have some sort of Black Swan event where it releases some set that breaks the internet and it brings all these collectors in from all these other TCGs or just Disney in general off the back of Worlds, and Disney ramps up the marketing, like I want to be positioned for that. And for me, that's not with set cards. That is with cards that, once again, do not come out of booster packs. So is that these promos? Is that the Stitch from the collector set, right? That right now is $4. Could that card be $20, $30 in the future? I certainly think so. Now that card does hold some sentimental value to me because we bought my daughter that bundle and it's the first card in her binder, and so I also look at it through that lens, so I'm very fond of that card. But there's a lot of really good purchases out there right now to make that you can build large positions in, that should any sort of Black Swan event happen, you're gonna be well situated. And so that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I've mentioned it before, I feel like Lorcana has a mid-range problem where you can't really spend 20, 30, 40, $50 effectively where you feel like you get a really, really cool card. Versus Pokemon, you can do that a lot, right? So right now, the big, there's a lot of hype around this Mew card, this pink Mew EX card from 151, the UPC. It's a $35 card. Couple weeks ago, that card was not a $34 card, but there's a good price range where someone can come in and feel like they're not breaking the bank. You can spend $20, $30, right? Skip a meal out, whatever, get a really cool card. That doesn't exist a lot in Lorcana. So I just think, once again, that's something that they have to work on and something they have to solve for. But by and large, that's kind of where that's where I'm at with everything in Lorcana. I think it's nice to see the prices continue to trend up. I think we've seen a ton of resistance to prices coming down. We haven't seen a huge uptick in demand, but people who have the cards are not willing to get rid of them either, and that signifies a strong market. Now it can feel very weak because everything in Pokemon is like you have to, once again, like fight a UFC fighter to even get a product off the shelves. Every card that I buy is like 10x, since I bought it. So that can feel annoying on the Lorcana side, but once again, it's very crucial that Lorcana builds a core following and people who are not just here to flip, get their free tendies. If we can come out of this cycle alive and things are still going well, releasing new sets, constantly building new people, we get worlds, just organic, natural growth for people who like the IP and love the art on the cards. That's how they win in the long term. It's good that stuff isn't getting scalped right now. Lorcana is too young for any of that to be happening. So it's on the right track. Obviously, sure, it could be doing a little bit better, right? There's a lot of cards that have gone down, cards that are going up a little bit, right? You know, there's a lot in there, but by and large, I think that's kind of where we're at for right now. So with that being said, guys, 40 minutes later, that is going to be it. I'm glad I got back on a regular schedule with these monthly market recaps. This one's going to be a lot more, you know, timely than some of my others. So thank you very much for watching. If you made it this far, my only ask always is that if you can go to the description of this video, I have my TCG Player affiliate link. If you click it, it'll take you to TCG Player's home screen where you can shop for cards. And at the end of the hyperlink, it'll say Cardboard Kingdom on it. If you don't mind favoriting that link or saving it, so it's kind of your go-to TCG Player link, when you check out, I'll get some sort of kickback on that. It doesn't cost you anything, no additional steps apart from just, you know, saving it and using that as your link. I would greatly appreciate the support if you don't mind doing that for me. So thank you very much, guys. Please leave your comments and the feedback on anything you would like to see moving forward, and I would love to get it included. So thank you very much, guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye.